Adama woke before the first cockcrow. The sky outside her window still wore a velvet black robe, but the scent of rising dough already danced in her small kitchen. Her hands, browned by sun and work, moved instinctively, kneading, folding, shaping dreams into loaves. She did this every day for her bakery, Sweet Ashes, the most visited shop in Temboni. At 35, Adama was admired by all but envied by many. Some called her the Golden One, not for her wealth, but because everything she touched turned into something warm, useful, or kind. Her parents, Baba Kofi and Mama Monsor, were the first to speak proudly of her. She built that bakery from nothing, Mama Monsor often said. And every week, she sends money home, like a true daughter should. But they never said how they demanded that money. How each visit ended with veiled threats and heavy sighs until Adama gave in. How they'd ask, not with gratitude, but with expectation, like it was her sacred debt to pay. Adama never questioned it. In her heart, it was an honor to care for her elders. Even when she couldn't afford a new oven, she sent them money for meat. Even when she needed to replace a leaking roof, she paid for her father's new generator instead. One Sunday after service, Adama walked to her parents' compound to drop off a sack of rice. She wasn't expected, but she wanted to surprise them. The gate was open. From inside, laughter spilled into the path. She paused when she heard her uncle's voice. Monsor, you are enjoying life now, eh? Adama leaned closer, hidden by the wall. Mama Monsor's laughter chimed like a cracked bell. Of course. That girl, Adama, she is so desperate to prove she's a good daughter. She sends us money like a foolish river flowing to a poison well. Even Baba Kofi added, if she ever stops, we'll just cry and say she's abandoned her family. That always works. The world shifted. Adama's feet rooted to the ground, her ears burning. They weren't proud of her. They were using her. Mocking her. All the years of quiet sacrifice collapsed into that moment. Her breath shook, but she made no sound. She turned and walked away, the sack of rice still in her hands. That night, Adama didn't cry. She didn't scream. She lit a candle in the center of her floor, knelt beside it, and whispered the name of her grandmother, Nana Boko. Speak to me, she said. I've given everything. And still, it's not enough. In the silence, a memory returned. Nana Boko, sitting under the mango tree, had once said, when you give from guilt, you create thieves of the ones you love. But when you give from truth, you teach them to rise. The next morning, Adama sent a short message to her parents. From today forward, I choose myself. May the gods provide for you as I once did. She didn't pick up when they called. She didn't attend the next family gathering. And she didn't explain. The villagers whispered. Adama has changed. She has turned cold. But the elders, the true elders, said nothing. They only watched her quietly, their eyes filled with the wisdom of history. Adama moved out of her room behind the bakery and found a home on a hill overlooking Temboni. There were no servants. No noise. Just her, a few potted plants, and silence that wrapped her like a shawl. For the first time, she heard her own voice when she prayed. For the first time, she didn't feel empty after saying no. And still, her parents sent messages. We miss you. We need help. We are your family. But Adama stayed silent. She planted vegetables. She began walking barefoot through the grass in the morning. She started baking again, not for customers, but for the joy of it. She gave fresh bread to the children playing in the market, and they laughed and called her Mama Flame because she always smelled of firewood and cinnamon. One day, a girl named Teta came to her hands burned from working in her uncle's kitchen. She asked Adama for water. Adama bathed her wounds and gave her bread. Do you have a place to stay? Adama asked. Teta shook her head. They say I'm a burden. Adama looked out at the sunset, remembering when she too had been someone's endless resource. Not anymore, she said. Come in. That night, Teta slept in the spare room. And so began Adama's house of healing. Each week, another girl came. A teenager pregnant by force. A woman escaping deaths from a greedy brother. A mother with 2 children and nowhere to go. Adama didn't advertise. She just opened her door. Meanwhile, her parents began to suffer. The generator broke. The money ran dry. Their neighbors stopped visiting when the food stopped flowing. They sent a letter, pleading, then accusing. You are a curse to us. You let your own family suffer. Adama held the letter over her cooking fire and watched it burn. Not long after, an elder named Ma Esai visited her. Child, she said, the village talks. Some say you are cruel. But I say, tell me your story. And so Adama did. From the first coin she gave to the night she overheard the laughter. Ma Esai nodded slowly. You have fire in your bones, she said. They tried to use it to warm their feet, but you turned it into light. Adama smiled for the first time in weeks. Then let me light the way for others. Word spread across Temboni that Adama had built a home for lost women. Some said she was trying to play God. Others said she had gone mad with grief. But none could deny the quiet power rising around her. Women who arrived with broken spirits left with new light in their eyes. One afternoon, as Adama watered her small garden, a messenger arrived with a folded note and a scowl. The boy didn't greet her, just dropped a letter at her feet and walked away. She opened it. We are sick, Adama. Your father cannot rise from bed. You will regret turning your back on us. Don't wait until it's too late. She folded the letter slowly. Her hands didn't shake. Her eyes didn't tear. That night, she sat with the women in her home around the fire. Teta braided her hair while another girl played a soft rhythm on a talking drum. What will you do? Teta asked. Adama stared into the flames. I will not run to wolves just because they cry like sheep. And they understood. The next morning, a woman named Ngozi came to visit. She was Adama's oldest friend, once her confidant, now a stranger. She stood at the gate nervously, her eyes full of questions. You've changed, Ngozi said after they embraced. I had to, Adama replied. They are saying your father is dying. You won't even go and see him. Adama looked down at her hands, still dusted with flour. I saw them long enough to know they never truly saw me. But what if they truly are ill? Adama placed a warm loaf in Ngozi's hands. Then let the gods be their comfort. Not me. Ngozi left quietly, but her silence said more than any goodbye. A few days later, Adama visited the market. Whispers followed her like shadows. There she goes, the one who abandoned her blood. She walks like a queen, but forgets her roots. She smiled. Not because she enjoyed it, but because their words no longer pierced her spirit. Truth had become her armor. Back on the hill, the girls continued to thrive. They were learning, healing, helping each other. One night, the youngest, a soft-spoken girl named Zina, asked, Do you ever miss them? Your mother and father? Adama didn't answer right away. The moonlight danced across her face. I miss the idea of them. But the real people. The ones who mocked my loyalty, drank my strength, and called it love. No. I don't miss that. Zina nodded slowly. You're brave. No, Adama whispered, I'm just tired of bleeding for people who never noticed I was cut. The next morning, something strange happened. Her father, Baba Kofi, came in person. He stood at the bottom of her hill, leaning on a walking stick, face drawn, eyes wet. Adama stood at her gate but did not open it. Adama, he said, voice cracking. I was wrong. She didn't reply. I miss you. Your mother misses you. We need you. Her lips pressed into a line. No. You miss the things I used to give. He dropped to his knees. The other girls watched from inside the compound, wide-eyed. Please, he begged. Forgive us. Adoma's heart beat painfully, but she stood firm. I forgive you, she said. But I will not open this gate. He stared up at her. You're truly gone then. I'm truly free, she answered, then turned and walked away. That evening, she wrote in her journal. Forgiveness is not an open door. Sometimes it is a fence that keeps the peace inside. The women of the house sang while they cooked. Laughter returned to the compound like the early rains, soft but sure. One girl painted a mural on the wall. It showed a woman on fire, but smiling. She walks through flames, the girl explained, but she doesn't burn. Adama touched the painting, eyes misty. That's all I've ever wanted. Later that week, an elder named Mo Esai returned to see her. You've started something here, Mo Esai said. These girls will change the village. I don't want to change the village, Adama replied. Just their futures. Mo Esai laughed. That's how the village changes. Adama invited her to stay for dinner. The girls cooked okra stew and pounded yam. They ate under the stars, sharing stories of where they'd been and what they'd escaped. One by one, the girls stood up and shared a word they now claimed as their own. Peace. Dignity. Strength. Choice. When it was Adama's turn, she rose slowly, looking at each face. Mine is fire. The morning came with birdsong and the scent of fried plantains drifting through the compound. Adama rose before the others, as usual, and sat beneath the fig tree to sip her lemongrass tea. It had become a ritual, her private conversation with the wind. She had just closed her eyes when a girl ran up, breathless. Someone is here, she said. A man. He says he wants to fix the roof. Adama arched a brow. Fix the roof. The girl nodded. He said he heard we need help. He didn't come to talk, he brought tools. Curious, Adama stood and walked toward the gate. There, hammering away on the loose tiles of a garden shed, stood a tall, broad-shouldered man with smooth dark skin and eyes like carved wood. He didn't look up until he finished the last nail. You are the lady of the hill, he asked, wiping sweat from his brow. I am. I'm Dogo, he said. My sister stayed here once. Said this place saved her life. So I wanted to give something back. Adama folded her arms. You could have asked. He smiled. You look like the kind who would have said no. That made her laugh, a low, surprised sound. I might have. And so Dogo stayed. Not in her home, but nearby, helping with the garden, building benches, reinforcing doors. He never asked for food or thanks, and he never lingered longer than needed. But slowly, his presence became a part of the rhythm. The girls liked him. Zina made him bracelets out of beads. Teta challenged him to storytelling battles. Even Mo Esai, who returned often, gave him her approving silence. Adama watched him carefully. Trust, after betrayal, was not something she gave lightly. But one evening, she caught him whispering a prayer over one of the girls' beds while she slept. That night, she wrote in her journal. Some men don't take. Some men build. As Dogo helped, Adama's vision expanded. She began teaching baking again, this time to the women in her care. They opened a stall at the market called Bread of Fire. It sold out every week. With the profits, she bought more land, started planting medicinal herbs, and hired a local midwife to stay with them. Slowly, what began as a shelter became a sanctuary. Still, trouble stirred. One day, Adama returned from the market to find a piece of charred bone at her doorstep, a silent curse. She called Ma ESI, who examined it with narrowed eyes. Someone went to the witch doctor. Who? Someone you cut off. Someone losing control. Adama didn't speak, but her mind immediately conjured her mother's face. I am protected, she whispered. Yes, Ma ESI replied. But the ones around you, they must stay clean. Jealousy poisoned slowly. The next morning, Tete fell sick. For 3 days, she burned with fever, whispering things in her sleep, fragments of fear, of betrayal. Dogo sat by her side the entire time, feeding her water and wiping her brow. When she awoke, she clutched Adama's hand. Don't let them take this from you, she murmured. Not this place. Not this light. And Adama knew she wouldn't. No matter what they sent. She began walking the land every night with her staff in hand, praying loudly, calling on her ancestors for protection. If they want a war, she said, let them find me ready. But not all battles came with curses. Some came with kindness. One evening, Dogo brought her a carved wooden box. I made this, he said, for the letters you don't send. Adama opened it. Inside were blank pages, a pen, and a small dried rose. I don't write letters anymore, she said. Maybe one day you will, he replied. Even if you never send them, writing them frees you. She nodded. You know too much. I've lost too much, he answered. That's how I learned. That night, for the first time in over a year, Adama wrote to her mother. The words came like water through a broken dam. You birthed me, but you didn't raise me. You praised me, but you didn't protect me. You spent me like coins in your palm. But I am no longer for sale. She folded the letter and placed it in the box. In the coming weeks, Adama found herself smiling more, humming as she kneaded dough. She and Dogo walked the fields together, sometimes in silence, sometimes in laughter. They never named what was growing between them, but it grew all the same. One night, during the full moon, Dogo asked her, do you ever think of love? I used to, Adama said. Now I think of peace. What if they come together? She didn't answer. But she didn't walk away. The next morning, she planted 3 trees, one for her past, one for her pain, and one for her future. She named the third one Zubri, which means strong. The wind shifted in Temboni. You could feel it in the market, less gossip, more respect. Even the ones who once whispered behind Adama's back now greeted her with bowed heads and hushed tones. She had become something different, someone feared and admired. But while her light grew, her parents' house dimmed. Baba Kofi and Mama Monso had spent their last coins maintaining appearances. Now their roof leaked, their debts grew, and the friends who once gathered for goat meat and palm wine no longer visited. At first, they blamed Adama. She cursed us with her pride, Mama Monso spat. What kind of daughter turns away from her parents? But the truth, like oil in water, rose. People remembered the mockery. They remembered the boasting. And slowly, the village stopped defending them. One day, during a community meeting, a boy stood and asked the elders why the village praised those who took and shamed those who said no. The room went silent. Change had begun. Meanwhile, on the hill, Adama opened a third kitchen. The herbs she grew were now being sent to clinics in nearby towns. Women came to her not only for food and shelter, but for wisdom. They called her Naya Flame, Mother Fire. But the past came knocking again. One hot afternoon, a woman approached the gate, her head bowed beneath a tattered shawl. It was Mama Monsa. She looked thinner, older, quieter. Adama stood at the gate but did not open it. My husband is sick, Monsa said. Truly this time. He cannot walk. The others, they no longer help us. Adama said nothing. I was wrong, she whispered. We both were. We forgot that love is not a right, it is a gift. Adama's voice was calm. You bragged that I was easy to use. I was ashamed of needing you, Mansour said. So I made you small. Forgive me. The gate remained closed. I forgive you, Adama said. But I cannot be your shelter again. Her mother looked up with tear-filled eyes. I'm not asking for shelter, she said. Just your prayers. Adama nodded. You have them. That evening, she sat with Ma Esai, watching the sun melt behind the hills. Do you ever miss who you used to be? Ma Esai asked. No, Adama replied. But I grieve for the years I spent trying to earn love. And now, I offer it freely, to those who give it too. The next day, a group of elders invited Adama to speak at the Festival of Daughters, an annual celebration where families honored the women who carried their names. When she stepped onto the stage, the crowd erupted, not in cheers, but in a kind of sacred silence. As if everyone was holding their breath. Adama wore a deep red wrapper and gold earrings shaped like flames. Her hair was wrapped high, and her gaze met each soul in the crowd. She did not speak for long. I am not here because I was obedient, she began. I am here because I broke the chains that disguise themselves as duty. Not every parent is a protector. Not every giver is appreciated. And not every daughter must stay silent to be called good. There was a murmur in the crowd. Some gasped. Others cried. I still honor my roots, she said. But I no longer let them choke me. When she stepped down, the women rushed forward, embracing her, weeping into her shoulders. A quiet revolution began that day. More women began saying no. More daughters began choosing peace. One evening, Dogo brought her a carved necklace. For your fire, he said. Adama held it in her hands. Do you love me? She asked. I've loved you since you said no to your own blood. She smiled. Then walk with me. A few months later, they wed. Not with fanfare, not with a bride price. Just dancing under the stars, children throwing flowers, and old songs sung anew. She wore orange and gold. He wore white. And together, they poured wine into the soil, saying, we start fresh. No chains. No debts. Just breath and blessing. Back in her old village, her parents heard of the wedding. Baba Kofi wept, not out of bitterness, but something else. Maybe regret. Maybe release. Mama Mansour sent a letter. You are no longer our daughter by duty. You are a daughter of flame, of choice, of change. We see now. We were blind. Forgive us still. Adama did not respond. She did not need to. She had already let go. The wind on the hill changed. Not in speed, but in sound. Where it once whispered through lonely trees, it now rustled through a growing village of purpose. Adama's sanctuary had become a center. What started as a shelter for a few women now welcomed dozens. There were new sleeping huts, a large kitchen, classrooms, a healing hut, and gardens bursting with food and herbs. They called it Ember Valley, a place where what had been burned could grow again. Dogo walked by her side. Not above her. Not ahead of her. But with her. He taught the boys of the village how to craft with their hands, how to build instead of brick. He told them, a strong man is not one who leads a woman, but one who listens to her flame without fear. One morning, Adama woke before sunrise and walked to the tree she had planted and named Zubri. It now stood tall, strong, unbending. She brought a girl with her, thin, scared, barely old enough to speak. She has no name, the midwife had said. Adama knelt beside her and said, would you like to be called Zubri, like the tree? The girl nodded. And just like that, Adama became a mother. The days were full of joy, of labor, of stories around the fire. Every week, new women came. Some stayed for a season. Some stayed forever. Some came back, years later, bringing daughters of their own. The bakery continued under a new name, Firebread. Women sold it across the region. Every loaf came with a blessing bound into the crust in braided flour: peace, strength, dignity, truth. Adama rarely returned to her birth village. But one year, the Council of Elders formally invited her to speak during the Festival of Founders. They had seen what Ember Valley had become. What she had built from ashes. She arrived in silence. No procession. No flute. But when she stepped onto the festival ground, the entire village stood. Old women cried. Young girls reached for her hands. Men who had once mocked her now bowed their heads. She gave a simple speech. Let your daughters be more than help. Let your sons be more than pride. Let every child become their own fire. When she left the stage, her father, frail and seated in the shade, stood with difficulty. He did not speak. He only nodded. And Adama nodded back. It was enough. A few months later, she held a private ceremony in Ember Valley. No crowds. No performances. Just the girls, the women, and a drum. They sang songs of their journeys. Teta spoke of forgiveness. Zina shared a poem she had written about rebuilding herself. Adama stood last. She looked around at the faces, young and old, joyful and scarred, and said, "This place began with a wound. But we are no longer bleeding. We are building. And from now on, this land belongs to the flame bearers. The ones who rose from fire and stayed warm, not bitter. They cheered. They danced. They cried." And as the sky turned gold and crimson, Adama walked to the far end of the garden where a small headstone stood beneath the tree she had planted for her pain. It read, "Here lies the woman I used to be. She died so I could live." Zubri, now older and bold, walked up beside her. "Are you sad?" Adama smiled. "No," she said. "I'm free." And for the first time, truly and deeply, she meant it. The fire in her bones no longer burned, it warmed. It glowed. It lit the way for others. And so, in the land of Temboni and far beyond, her name became more than a story. It became a legend.